The morning started like any other day for Captain Jake Morrison. He was drinking his coffee on the bridge of the UES Defiance when the sensors went crazy. The ship was humanity's newest and best vessel, floating in space near Earth's moon. Jake had been a captain for 12 years, but he had never seen readings like this. Lisa Wang was working at the communications station. She was young but very good at her job. Her fingers moved fast across the controls as warning lights filled the bridge with red color. The numbers on her screen made no sense. Something very big was coming toward Earth. "Captain, you need to see this," Lisa said. Her voice was shaking a little. "Something just appeared at the edge of our solar system. It's huge, bigger than anything we've ever built." Jake put down his coffee cup and walked to her station. The display showed a dot moving toward Earth, but this was not just any dot. The computer said it was 20 kilometers long. No human ship had ever been built that big. The biggest Earth ship was only 2 kilometers from front to back. "How long until it reaches us?" Jake asked. "At current speed, about 6 hours, said Bobby Clark from the navigation station. Bobby was an older man who had been in space for most of his life. Jake trusted his numbers more than the computer sometimes. Jake pressed a button on his chair. "Get me Admiral Carter, priority 1. Admiral Henry Carter appeared on the main screen within minutes. The old man looked tired, but his eyes were sharp. He had been Earth's top military leader for 15 years. Jake had served under him during the Mars colony troubles. Carter was the kind of man who stayed calm when everything went wrong. "Report." "Captain," Carter said. "Sir, we have an unidentified vessel approaching Earth. It's 20 kilometers long and unlike anything in our database. No response to our communication attempts." Carter was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I'll be there. In 2 hours. Keep watching it. Don't do anything unless it attacks first." The next few hours felt very long. The alien ship came closer and closer to Earth. More human ships arrived to form a defensive line. But everyone knew their small fleet would not last long against something. That big dot, when the alien ship finally stopped, it was right above Earth. People on the ground could see it with their naked eyes. It looked like a giant crystal floating in space. Purple light moved across its surface in patterns that hurt to look at. Admiral Carter was now on the bridge of the Defiance. He stood next to Jake and watched the alien ship through the main window. Both men had seen many battles, but nothing had prepared them for this moment. "Incoming transmission," Lisa said. "They're using our own communication frequencies. The signal is very strong." "Put it on screen," Carter ordered. The display changed to show 3 alien beings. The one in the middle had 4 arms and black skin that looked like polished stone. The creature on the left looked like a giant snake with arms. Its scales changed color as it breathed. The third alien was like a huge insect with claws and teeth that clicked together when it moved. "Greetings, primitive species," the middle alien said. Its voice was cold and mechanical. "I am Ambassador Zektar of the Hegemony. I speak for the Galaxy Council of the Terran Sector. Your species has been observed and catalogued." Jake felt his hands close into fists. He did not like being called primitive. Next to him, Admiral Carter showed no emotion on his face. But Jake could see the man's jaw was tight. "You have developed faster than light travel," the snake-like alien continued. "You have begun to expand beyond your home system. Therefore, you now fall under Council jurisdiction." "I am Counselor Vex." The insect alien's teeth clicked loudly. "The Galaxy Council has governed this sector for 12,000 of your years. 147 species pay tribute to maintain galactic peace and order. You will comply. With Standard Tributary Protocol 7 Alpha, I am High Inquisitor Morduk." Admiral Carter stepped forward. "What exactly does this protocol require?" Ambassador Zektaris' 4 arms moved in what might have been a shrug. "Your species will surrender 60% of all raw materials, 40% of manufactured goods, and 30% of your population annually. These individuals will serve as laborers in Council territories." The bridge became very quiet. Jake felt his heart beating fast. They wanted to take 1 out of every 3 humans as slaves. The aliens were talking about billions of people. Failure to comply will result in complete planetary sterilization, High Inquisitor Moore dotted. His voice was like metal scraping. Against stone, Lisa Wang made a small sound of fear. Bobby Clark was staring at his controls like he could not believe what he was hearing. At the tactical station, Michelle Torres had put her hand on her weapon without thinking about it. You have 72 of your hours to prepare your first tribute shipment, Ambassador Zektar said. A Council enforcement fleet will arrive to collect payment and establish a permanent monitoring station in your system. Your compliance is not optional, the transmission ended. The bridge was silent except for the quiet hum of the ship's engines. Jake looked at Admiral Carter. The old man's face was like stone, but his eyes were full of anger. Get me a direct line to President Collins, Carter said. Use the highest security channels, and contact all fleet commanders. I want every ship captain to report to me within the hour. As the crew worked to carry out his orders, Jake walked to the window and looked at the alien ship. It hung in space, like a dark promise of death. The purple lights on its surface pulsed slowly, like a giant heartbeat. Down on Earth, emergency meetings started in every major city. President Collins called together the military leaders and government officials. The United Nations held an emergency session. Scientists and generals worked through the night, trying to find a way to fight back against impossible odds, but in secret military bases around the world, other meetings were happening. Men and women in dark rooms looked at computer screens, full of classified information. They talked about projects that most people did not know existed. Project Pandora was humanity's biggest secret. Now it might be their only hope. Jake did not know about these secret meetings yet. But as he watched the alien ship and thought about their demands, he felt something growing inside him. It was not fear. It was anger. Pure, burning anger at these creatures who thought they could just take what they wanted from humanity. The Galaxy Council had made one big mistake. They had never met humans before. They did not know what kind of species they were dealing with. They thought Earth would be like all the other worlds that had given up without a fight. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The 72 hours passed like a nightmare that would not end. On Earth, President Collins had called the most important meeting in human history. Leaders from every nation sat around a massive table in the underground bunker beneath Washington. The air was thick with tension and fear. Admiral Carter stood at the front of the room with a large screen behind him. On the screen were pictures of the alien fleet that had arrived exactly when they said they would. 200 warships now, surrounded Earth like angry wasps around a hive. Each ship was bigger than anything humans had ever built. The situation is clear, Carter said to the room full of world leaders. We can surrender and become slaves, or we can fight and probably die. But there is a third option that most of you don't know about yet. President Collins leaned forward. She was a small woman, but her voice was strong. What third option, Admiral? Carter pressed a button and the screen changed. Now it showed pictures of human ships that looked nothing like the ones the public knew about. These ships were sleek and dangerous looking, with weapons that seemed to glow with their own light. For the past 15 years we have been preparing for this day, Carter said. Project Pandora was started after our first contact with alien raiders in the outer colonies. We've been building a secret fleet and developing new weapons. The room erupted in shocked voices. The president of Russia stood up quickly. You built a military fleet in secret? Without telling any of us? We told the people who needed to know, Carter replied calmly. The engineers, the scientists, the soldiers who would have to use these ships. We kept it secret because we knew this day would come. We knew that someday someone would try to make humanity kneel. Dr. Elena Vasquez entered the room carrying a briefcase. She was Earth's best expert on alien languages and had been studying the Council's communications for weeks. Her face was serious, but her eyes showed determination. Ladies and gentlemen, she said, I have been chosen to deliver humanity's official response to the Galaxy Council's demands. Meanwhile, in space above Earth, Ambassador Zektar waited on his flagship. The Dominion's Will was the largest ship in the Council fleet. Its weapons could destroy entire cities with one shot. Zektar felt confident that the humans would surrender, just like every other species had done before them. Ambassador, his aide Subcommander Krivalium said, the human ships are approaching. They appear to be carrying tribute containers as expected. Zektar's forearms moved in satisfaction. Excellent. Another species learns to accept the natural order. Open communications with their flagship. The screen showed the bridge of the UES Defiance. Admiral Carter stood in the center with Captain Morrison beside him. Dr. Vasquez stood slightly behind them, holding a datapad in her hands. I am Admiral Henry Carter, representing the United Earth Government, Carter said. His voice was steady and calm. We have considered your tribute demands carefully. Good, Zektar replied. You show wisdom in accepting reality. The first tribute shipment will be transferred immediately. We will establish monitoring stations on your moon and in your orbital facilities. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward. She looked directly at Zektar through the screen. Ambassador Zektar, the United Earth Government has authorized me to deliver our official response to the Galaxy Council's tribute demands. Proceed, Zektar said. He was already thinking about the efficiency reports he would send to the High Council. This quick surrender would look very good for his career. Dr. Vasquez straightened her shoulders and spoke clearly. No, the word hung in space like a physical thing. On the alien flagship, every officer stopped what they were doing. Sub-Commander Krival's scales turned pale yellow with shock. High Inquisitor Morduk, who was watching from the council chambers through quantum communication, clicked his teeth in confusion. What did you say? Zektar asked. His voice carried a note of genuine bewilderment. Admiral Carter stepped forward. You heard correctly, Ambassador. Our answer is no. Earth will not pay tribute. Earth will not surrender its people. Earth will not submit to the Galaxy Council's authority. Every alien ship immediately powered up their weapons. Energy readings spiked across all frequencies. Warning alarms screamed on human vessels as targeting systems locked onto their hulls. The space around Earth suddenly filled with the deadly glow of charged weapons. This is impossible, Zektar shouted. His calm mask finally cracked. No species refuses council authority. In 12,000 years, no world has ever dared to defy us. Captain Morrison smiled coldly. Well, I guess. There's a first time for everything. High Inquisitor Morduk's voice cut through the communication channel like a blade. Humans, you do not understand what you have done. Our fleet carries enough firepower to crack your planet's surface. Your largest vessels are toys compared to our smallest frigates. You have 60 seconds to reconsider before we turn your world into burning ash. Dr. Vasquez looked at her watch. Interesting timing, Inquisitor. By our calculations, you have about 47 seconds before you'll want to reconsider your own position. What are you talking about? Zektar demanded. Admiral Carter's weathered face broke into the first smile the aliens had seen. You made several mistakes in your intelligence gathering, Ambassador. First, you assumed we were alone. Second, you assumed we were defenseless. Third, and most importantly, you assumed we were afraid. Dr. Vasquez's watch reached 0. Everything changed in an instant. The tribute containers approaching the alien fleet suddenly split open like flowers blooming. But instead of goods for tribute, they revealed weapons platforms bristling with guns and missile launchers. The containers had been fake all along. The moon itself seemed to crack open as massive defense installations emerged from hidden positions. Giant gun barrels rose from craters that had been carefully disguised for decades. Missile silos opened, like eyes awakening from a long sleep, but the real surprise came from the outer solar system. A fleet of human warships suddenly appeared as if from nowhere. They had been hidden behind Jupiter's radiation, invisible to council sensors. These were not the primitive craft the aliens expected. They were sleek, angular ships that looked like they were built for war. The head of this hidden fleet was the UES Retribution, humanity's first dreadnought. Its weapon systems powered up with a whine that made space itself seem to vibrate. The ship was twice as large as anything the aliens had seen humans build before. You wanted to know about humanity? Admiral Carter said as human forces moved into position around the alien fleet. Let me give you a history lesson. We've been fighting wars since before we learned to write. We've never stopped finding better ways to protect ourselves and destroy our enemies. We've been preparing for this day since we first looked at the stars and wondered what else was out there. Captain Morrison activated the fleet communication system. His voice was broadcast to every alien ship. Attention Galaxy Council forces. You are surrounded and outgunned. Power down your weapons immediately and prepare to be boarded. Any attempt to target Earth or harm its people will result in the complete destruction of your fleet. Ambassador. Zektar stared at his tactical displays in growing horror. The readings made no sense. Somehow, the primitive humans had surrounded his entire fleet. His enforcement armada, the pride of the Galaxy Council, was trapped like fish in a net, his weapons officer reported in a shaking voice. Ambassador, they have us completely surrounded. Our ships are outnumbered 3-1. Their weapon signatures are unlike anything in our database. This cannot be happening, Zektar whispered. Admiral Carter heard him through the open communication channel. Ambassador, this is just the beginning. Your council has ruled through fear for 12,000 years. Today, that ends. Today, you learn what happens when you threaten a species that refuses to kneel. 3 days after the alien fleet surrendered, Ambassador Zektar sat in a small room aboard the UES Retribution. The room was plain but clean, with a bed, a desk, and a single window that showed the stars. He was not in chains, but he knew he was a prisoner. The humans had been polite but firm about keeping him contained. Dr. Elena Vasquez entered the room carrying a tablet computer and a cup of something that smelled like Earth coffee. Behind her walked Colonel Danny Rodriguez, a man with scars on his face and cybernetic implants around his left eye. Both humans looked tired but determined. Ambassador, Dr. Vasquez said as she sat down across from him, we need to have a conversation. Zektar crossed his forearms in front of his chest. I will tell you nothing. The Council will send reinforcements. Your world will burn for this defiance. Colonel Rodriguez laughed, but the sound was not friendly. That's funny, Ambassador. You keep making the same mistakes over and over. You assume things about us, and every time you're wrong. Dr. Vasquez activated her tablet. The screen showed images that made Zektar's skin change color with shock. He was looking at footage of human ships fighting what were clearly Council vessels. But the timestamp on the videos showed battles that had happened 15 years ago. Do you recognize these ships? Dr. Vasquez asked. They're hegemony raiders. Your people have been attacking our outer colonies for over a decade. The strange thing is, they never reported back to the Council about what they found when they attacked us. The images changed to show wreckage being pulled into human salvage ships. Alien technology was being carefully taken apart in Earth laboratories. Human engineers were studying Council weapons and making them better. Every time your raiders attacked us, we learned something new, Colonel Rodriguez explained. Every ship we captured taught us about your technology, your tactics, and your weaknesses. By the time you arrived demanding tribute, we knew more about the Galaxy Council than most of your own member species. Zektar felt his confidence crumbling like sand. That is impossible. The raiders would have reported human resistance. The High Command would have been informed. Would they? Dr. Vasquez pulled up another file. Let me introduce you to Captain Frank Stevens. He commands our Deep Space Reconnaissance Division. The tablet showed a tough-looking human officer with cybernetic implants and battle scars. The man's voice was calm as he explained, It's simple, Doctor. We made sure none of those raiders ever made it home. Every single ship was either destroyed or captured. As far as the Council knows, they just disappeared into space. That happens a lot out there, doesn't it? The full scope of humanity's deception became clear to Zektar. For 15 years, Earth had been fighting a secret war against Council forces while pretending to be a primitive, defenseless species. Every battle had been carefully managed. Every piece of evidence had been eliminated or hidden. But there's something else you need to understand, Dr. Vasquez continued. Her voice became cold and hard. We've been monitoring Council communications for years. We know about the tribute system. We know about the slave labor camps. We know about the population reduction programs for species that resist too effectively. She leaned forward and looked directly into Zektar's eyes. Most importantly, we know about the extinction protocols, the systematic murder of 17 entire species whose only crime was refusing to bow down to you. Ambassador Zektar tried to keep his composure, but his skin had turned pale gray with fear. The Council maintains order. Some sacrifices are necessary for galactic stability. Stability, Colonel Rodriguez repeated. His voice was full of disgust. You mean your stability, your comfort, your power built on the bones of dead civilizations. Dr. Vasquez stood up and activated a star map on her tablet. The display showed the locations of every Council world, every military base, every secret installation that the Galaxy Council thought was hidden from the rest of the galaxy. Here's what's going to happen, Ambassador. You're going to send a message to the High Council. You're going to tell them that their tribute collection failed because humanity destroyed your entire fleet. You're going to recommend that they leave our system alone and never return. They will never believe such a report, Zektar protested. Captain. Morrison's voice came through the room's communication system. They will when they see the evidence. The tablet display changed to show the outer edge of the solar system. Scattered debris floated in space where Zektar's fleet had been. The wreckage looked convincing, too convincing. The humans had somehow created fake evidence showing the complete destruction of 200 Council warships. Your crews are safe, Morrison continued. We've put them in escape pods that will be found by Council search teams in about 6 hours. They'll tell the same story you're going to tell about humanity's unexpected military strength. Dr. Vasquez smiled, but there was no warmth in the expression. Of course, they'll also carry a very specific message back to the Council, the same message we're sending with you. What message? Zektar asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. Colonel Rodriguez activated the final display. It showed Earth's true defensive grid in all its terrifying glory. Orbital weapons platforms surrounded the planet like a metal shell. Asteroid-based missile systems filled the space between Mars and Jupiter. Ship construction facilities hidden on the dark side of the moon were producing vessels at an incredible rate, but the image that truly terrified Zektar was the fleet count. Over 3,000 human warships were spread throughout the solar system. Each one incorporated the best Council technology and had improved upon it in ways that made no sense. The message is simple, Dr. Vasquez said. Humanity is no longer hiding. We know where you live. We know how you fight. We know how to beat you. Leave us alone and we'll leave you alone. Continue your tribute system, continue your genocides, continue your oppression of other species, and we'll become the nightmare that ends the Galaxy Council forever. Zektar understood that everything had changed. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted in a single moment. The species he had dismissed as primitive savages had just declared themselves equal to the Council, or perhaps superior to it. They will never accept this, he whispered. We're counting on it, Dr. Vasquez replied. Colonel Rodriguez leaned back in his chair. You see, Ambassador, we humans have a saying. You can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. The Galaxy Council has been the biggest egg in the galaxy for 12,000 years. It's time to break it. Dr. Vasquez gathered her tablet and stood to leave. You have 24 hours to compose your message to the High Council. We'll provide you with all the evidence you need to make it convincing. After that, you and your surviving crew will be sent home in one of your own ships. As the two humans prepared to leave, Zektar called out to them, Why are you doing this? Why risk everything for species you've never met? Dr. Vasquez paused. At the door, because someone has to. Because we've seen what happens when good people do nothing while evil spreads across the stars. Because we believe that every intelligent species has the right to be free, Colonel Rodriguez added, and because we're really, really good at breaking things that need to be broken. After they left, Zektar sat alone in his room and looked out at the stars. For the first time in his 300 years of life, he wondered if the Galaxy Council deserved to survive. The humans had shown him something he had forgotten existed. They had shown him what it looked like when a species refused to accept that might makes right. He began composing his message to the High Council, knowing that his words would either prevent a war or start the greatest conflict the galaxy had ever seen. Either way, nothing would ever be the same again. The emergency meeting of the Galaxy Council High Command had been going on for 18 hours. The massive chamber on Nexus Prime buzzed with angry voices from 200 different species. Holographic displays showed the wreckage from the human system and the impossible reports from the survivors. High Counselor Vexton stood at the center of the chamber on his crystal platform. He was over 800 years old and had led the council for 3 centuries. His ancient form commanded respect from every delegate in the room. Around him, screens showed the devastating images that Ambassador Zektar had sent back. Fellow counselors, his voice echoed through translation devices, we face a crisis unlike any in our 12,000-year history. For the first time, species has not only refused tribute but has demonstrated the power to enforce that refusal. Counselor Mordix of the Zelani Collective raised several tentacles in agitation. This is madness. One world cannot stand against the combined might of the entire council. We should mobilize every war fleet immediately and crush these humans before their rebellion spreads. And repeat the same errors that cost us 200 ships? High Inquisitor Mordeth's voice clicked with anger. These humans have been preparing for years. They know our technology, our battle tactics, our weaknesses. They turned our own weapons against us. War Minister Kekstar of the Draconian Empire slammed his scaled fist on his podium. Then what do you suggest? That we accept their defiance? Allow them to make a mockery of 12 millennia of galactic order? The argument continued for hours, but High Counselor Vexton had already made his decision. The humans represented an existential threat to everything the Council had built. Their example could inspire rebellions across hundreds of worlds. The tribute system that fed Council civilization could collapse within years if other species followed the human example. The decision is made, Vexton declared, his voice cutting through all other sounds. Operation Final Solution is hereby authorized. We will mobilize every available warship, every weapon, every soldier in Council space. The human species will be completely eradicated as a lesson to any who would dare follow their path. The chamber erupted in roars of approval from the military delegates. War Minister Kekstar smiled with savage satisfaction. How many ships, High Counselor? All of them, Vexton replied. 15,000 warships, 40 dreadnoughts, 3 planet killer weapons. We will not make the mistake of underestimating these humans again. Meanwhile, in the underground command center beneath Earth's Cheyenne Mountain, humanity prepared for the storm they knew was coming. Admiral Carter stood before a massive holographic display that showed defensive positions throughout the solar system. Around him, the best military minds on Earth worked frantically to coordinate their preparations. General Patricia Hayes walked up to Carter with a data tablet full of intelligence reports. She was Earth's top strategic planner and had been working without sleep for 3 days. Her face showed exhaustion, but her eyes remained sharp and focused. Admiral, our deep space monitoring stations are detecting massive movement in Council territory, she reported. They're pulling ships from 7 different sectors. Conservative estimates put their response force at 15,000 vessels with multiple planet-killer weapons. Commodore Morrison, recently promoted after the first battle, studied the tactical projections on his screen. Timeline for their arrival? 6 weeks if they maintain current speed, Dr. Vasquez replied. She had become Earth's unofficial ambassador to the captured alien crews. Maybe 8 weeks if they face supply problems or political delays. President Collins appeared on the main communication screen from her secure bunker in Washington. The weight of 6 billion lives showed clearly on her face. "Admiral Carter, I need to know, are we ready for this?" The question hung in the air like a physical thing. Everyone in the command center stopped what they were doing to hear the answer. Carter looked around the room at the faces of humanity's military leadership. These were men and women who had spent their entire careers preparing for threats that might never come. Now they faced the greatest challenge in human history. "Operation Defiant Stand is fully operational," Carter replied, with calm confidence. "Every defensive position from Mercury to Pluto is armed and ready. We've turned the asteroid belt into the largest minefield in galactic history. Mars has become our primary shipyard, producing new vessels faster than the Council's own industrial worlds," Commodore Morrison added. "Our deep space fleet is positioned at optimal intercept points. Captain Stevens and his reconnaissance division have identified the best places to hit them before they reach the inner planets." But it was Dr. Vasquez who revealed humanity's greatest advantage. "More importantly, we're not fighting this war alone anymore." The holographic display changed to show a star map of Council space. Red indicators marked dozens of locations where open rebellion had already begun. The Alteran Republic had declared complete independence from Council rule. The Centauri mining guilds had expelled their Council overseers and seized control of their own facilities. 43 smaller species had simply stopped sending tribute payments. "News of our resistance has spread faster than the Council can contain it," Dr. Vasquez explained. "Every species that has suffered under the tribute system for centuries now knows that someone finally said no and survived. They're following our example." General Hayes smiled for the first time in days. "The Council wanted to make an example of us. Instead, we've become a symbol of hope for the entire galaxy." The strategic implications were enormous. The Council faced not just a war with humanity, but potential uprisings across their entire territory. Their military forces would be divided, their attention scattered across hundreds of worlds. Admiral Carter knew better than to rely on rebellions alone. Even with their forces divided, they still outnumber us 20 to 1. This war will be decided by superior technology, better tactics, and pure determination. President Collins' voice carried the responsibility of an entire species. Then we better make sure we have all three. As the meeting broke up and commanders returned to their duties, a priority message arrived that changed everything. Captain Stevens, monitoring deep space from his stealth ship UES Shadow, sent an encrypted transmission that made Admiral Carter smile coldly. The message contained only 5 words. "Pandora's box has been opened." Across Council space on the industrial worlds that had built their war machine for thousands of years, something unprecedented was happening. The massive shipyards that constructed Council battle fleets were experiencing catastrophic system failures. Automated construction systems were building ships with critical design flaws. Supply networks were collapsing as computer systems suffered mysterious malfunctions. Similar problems were occurring on dozens of Council worlds. What appeared to be random technical failures were actually the result of humanity's most secret weapon. Computer viruses designed specifically for alien systems had been spreading through Council networks for months, delivered by human agents who had been infiltrating their territory for years. The viruses lay dormant until activated by a special signal. Now they were awakening all at once, crippling the Council's ability to build new ships or coordinate their existing forces. Production schedules that had run smoothly for centuries were falling apart. Military communications were filled with false data and human propaganda. Admiral Carter looked at the intelligence reports flowing in from across the galaxy. The Council's war machine was already starting to tear itself apart from within. Their 15,000 ship armada would never reach full strength because half their shipyards could no longer function properly. "Let them come," Carter said to the empty command center. "We'll be ready." The war for humanity's survival was about to begin, but the Galaxy Council was about to discover that their primitive enemy had been preparing for this moment much longer than anyone could have imagined. The Battle of the Outer Rim began at exactly 0800 Earth Standard Time on a Tuesday morning. Admiral Carter watched from the bridge of the UES Retribution as 8,000 Council warships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. The enemy fleet stretched across space like a metal constellation, their weapons already charging for the attack they expected would end humanity forever, but the Council forces found something they had not expected. Instead of cowering behind Earth's defenses, the human fleet was waiting for them in battle formation. 3,000 ships formed a perfect sphere around the alien armada, trapping them in a cage of human steel and firepower. Commodore Morrison coordinated the attack from his flagship UES Defiance. His voice was calm as he spoke to every human captain in the fleet. All ships, this is Defiance Actual. Execute Order Prometheus. Show them what happens when you threaten Earth. The battle that followed changed the course of galactic history. The Council had built their strategy around massive dreadnoughts and overwhelming firepower. They expected to fight individual ships one at a time, using their superior size and weapons to crush any resistance. Instead, they found themselves fighting something completely new. The human fleet moved like a single living organism. Every ship was connected through quantum communication networks that allowed them to coordinate with perfect precision. When Council forces targeted one human vessel, 5 others would appear to protect it. When alien ships tried to break formation, human forces would surround them instantly. Captain Frank Stevens led the Stealth Division in a series of surgical strikes against Council command ships. His modified vessels could appear and disappear, like ghosts, striking at the enemy's nerve centers before vanishing back into the void. Within the first hour of battle, half the Council fleet had lost communication with their commanders, but the real surprise came when the Council ships tried to use their weapons. The computer viruses that had been spreading through their systems for months finally revealed their true purpose. At the moment of greatest need, Council weapons failed to fire properly. Navigation computers provided false readings. Communication systems broadcast human propaganda instead of tactical orders. Admiral Vexton watched in growing horror from his flagship as his grand armada fell apart around him. Ships collided with each other as their navigation systems failed. Weapons fired at random targets or refused to fire at all. The carefully coordinated attack became a chaotic nightmare within minutes. What is happening? He demanded from his bridge crew. Why are our systems failing? His tactical officer reported with a shaking voice. Sir, our entire computer network has been compromised. The humans have infected our systems with some kind of virus weapon. Half our fleet cannot fight effectively. Dr. Elena Vasquez appeared on communication screens throughout the Council fleet. Her voice was broadcast on every frequency, speaking in perfect translations of dozens of alien languages. Attention Council forces. You came here to destroy humanity and enslave our world. Instead, you have walked into a trap 15 years in the making. The holographic image showed her standing in the command center on Earth, surrounded by displays showing the battle in real time. Behind her, human technicians worked at computers that were clearly controlling the virus attacks on Council ships. Every ship you sent against our colonies taught us about your technology, she continued. Every raider we captured gave us access to your computer systems. We have been inside your networks for years, waiting for this moment. Your own weapons have been turned against you. High Counselor Vexton tried to maintain control as his fleet crumbled around him. All ships fall back to defensive positions. Attempt manual override of all automated systems, but it was too late. The human forces pressed their advantage with ruthless efficiency. Ships that had seemed primitive only hours before revealed weapons that made Council technology look ancient. Railguns fired projectiles at speeds that tore through alien armor like paper. Energy weapons carved through space with precision that defied physics. The battle raged for 72 hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt. When the fighting finally ended, the space around Jupiter was filled with the wreckage of 6,000 Council warships. The remaining alien forces broadcast their surrender on all frequencies. Begging for mercy from the species they had come to exterminate, Admiral Carter stood on the observation deck of the Retribution, looking out at the debris field that had once been the pride of the Galaxy Council. Beside him, Commodore Morrison coordinated rescue operations to save the alien survivors. Even in victory, humanity showed mercy to their defeated enemies. Final casualty count? Carter asked. 437 human casualties, Morrison reported. Most from accidents rather than enemy fire. Council losses are estimated at over 2 million. The numbers told the story of the most one-sided battle in galactic history. The Galaxy Council's unstoppable war machine had been broken by a species they had dismissed as primitive savages. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted completely in just 3 days. Dr. Vasquez joined them on the observation deck, carrying reports from across Council space. Admiral, we're receiving surrender messages from 83 different species. The Alteran Republic wants to discuss a formal military alliance. The Centauri mining guilds are offering exclusive trade agreements with Earth. But the most significant development came from an unexpected source. Ambassador Zektar, who had spent the entire battle in protective custody aboard a human medical ship, requested a meeting with Admiral Carter. When they met in the ship's conference room, Zektar looked like a completely different being from the arrogant diplomat who had first demanded tribute. Admiral Carter, Zektar said, his forearms clasped in what Carter had learned was a gesture of deep respect. I have lived for 300 years and served the Council for most of that time. I believed in the mission of galactic order and the necessity of the tribute system. Today I watched that order die in a matter of hours. Carter waited, knowing. The alien had more to say. My people were not always part of the Council, Zektar continued. We resisted for decades before finally submitting to tribute demands. I had forgotten what it felt like to have pride in my species, to stand for something greater than mere survival. The alien straightened, and Carter saw something in his eyes that had never been there before. Hope. I formally request that the hegemony be allowed to join what your people are calling the Free Species Alliance, Carter smiled. We'll have to discuss terms, but I think we can work something out. 6 months later, representatives from 300 species gathered on Luna for the signing of the Galactic Freedom Charter. The document established principles that would have been impossible under Council rule. Every species had the right to govern itself. The tribute system was abolished forever. Less advanced civilizations would be protected rather than exploited. President Collins, now serving as the first Secretary General of the Free Species Alliance, stood before the assembled delegates in a great hall built from the hull of a captured Council dreadnought. Today marks not just the end of the Galaxy Council's tyranny, but the beginning of a new age of cooperation among all species. As the ceremony concluded and delegates prepared to return to their worlds with news of the new order, Admiral Carter found himself alone on Luna's observation deck. He looked out at the stars that no longer seemed hostile or distant. Construction sites dotted the space around Earth, where human and alien engineers worked together, building ships for exploration rather than conquest. Commodore Morrison joined him with 2 cups of coffee. Any regrets? Carter considered the question. Seriously, the war had cost lives on both sides. The galaxy would face years of adjustment as species learned to live free after centuries of oppression. There would be challenges and conflicts ahead. No, he said finally, we did what had to be done. Morrison nodded, watching ships depart Luna's orbit carrying the message of freedom to distant stars. Think the Council remnants will try again? Carter smiled, remembering the final intelligence reports. The scattered remains of the Council were too busy fighting each other to threaten anyone else. Without the tribute system, most Council worlds faced economic collapse and revolution. Let them try, he said. They'll discover that freedom is much harder to destroy than they think. The Galaxy Council had demanded tribute from humanity. The one-word reply of no had indeed changed everything, not just for Earth, but for every species that had ever dreamed of breaking free from oppression. In refusing to kneel, humanity had taught the galaxy to stand.